Good morning, losers. And when I say good morning this time, I literally mean it. It is 1 in the morning. The Cal UCLA game is still on. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to apologize in advance for this version of the Your Season is Over video, and we'll chalk this one up to poor planning on Uncle Lou's part, I guess. But I am going out of town today, Sunday. In fact, when you're watching this, I'm already out of town. I have a flight at 5 in the morning, Sunday morning. I've got to leave my house at 3 in the morning to get to the airport. So I am making this video. I started making the notes for this video as soon as the Georgia Tech and Florida State, all the primetime games, as soon as those games ended, I got to work on the copious notes. And it's about 1 in the morning now. I'm just starting to record this thing here. There's not going to be, I'm skipping the big fancy intro that I normally do. And I hate that because, to be honest with you, now a lot of you probably are fine with it. A lot of people don't like the big long intros. I get that. And I've thought a lot of times about doing away with those. I'm just going to be honest with you, though. I just have fun doing those. And sometimes you got to do, I just like doing them. And, sometimes you got to do the things you enjoy doing, even if you know probably some people don't enjoy the long intros. And for those people, I do understand that. I do. So here you go. Here's Your Season is Over video without the big, long, fancy intro. But Rivalry weekend is in the books. And it was an amazing weekend of college football. We didn't get a lot of the major upsets that we thought we were going to get or possibly get. And this has been sort of a strange season. And maybe we'll talk about that more as we go through this video today. But there's been less major upsets this season, it seems like, than any season really in recent memory. Now, there's upsets every week. Some random team's favored by 10 points and they lose. That's an upset. I'm talking about the top teams every week. And the 2 or 3 weekends in particular, it seems like the talk up to that weekend was like, this is upset weekend. These big teams are going to go down. It happened several times. We never really got that weekend this year, right? Washington has managed to hang on by the skin of their teeth for the last 5 or 6 games. They just kept winning. Florida State had several close calls, even lost their quarterback last week. They just keep winning. Georgia, early in the season, had some major scares, got through them, and then sort of got over the hump around the midway point of the season. I mean, Ohio State did lose yesterday, and that was a top team, but they were playing another top team, so one of them had to lose. It wasn't an out-of-the-blue loss by a top team. We really avoided that for a large portion of the season. Even Alabama, who has a loss, was way back in week 2. Texas lost a couple of weeks later to Oklahoma. Other than that, they've managed to skate through. Oregon lost, but it was to a top 4 team, an undefeated team, Washington, and they haven't lost since. We seem to avoid the kind of just train wreck weekend that we've had in a lot of seasons past. And to be honest with you, that's a little disappointing. Now, when your team is involved in that train wreck, when your team is on the losing end of one of those type of train wreck games, you hate it. But just as college football fans, I've come to expect and really appreciate those types of weekends. And we didn't really get that this year. And there are some teams that desperately needed that to happen. And it just didn't happen. Hashtag Bama needs help. It's been trending for 2 or 3 weeks. Bama needs lots of help, people. And they're not getting it. They're just not getting it. Bama doesn't control their own destiny. They don't. They can beat Georgia 100-0 next weekend. Unless they get some help, they're not headed to the playoffs. Now, in the end, it doesn't matter. They're not beating Georgia. I know it. You know it. The Ethiopian people know it. Everyone knows it. They've been waiting. Washington's going to lose. Washington's going to lose. Never happened. They thought Oregon State was going to beat Washington last week. Didn't happen. They said, that's okay. Oregon State will beat Oregon this week. Didn't happen. Texas ain't no good. They'll lose a game. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. Georgia's going 9-3. Woo. Wait till they get to that part of the schedule where they got to play Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, and Tennessee 4 weeks in a row. They'll be lucky to win 2 of those. Well, they won all 4. They won all 4. Didn't happen. Florida State beats Boston College by 2, struggles against Pitt, quarterback goes down, Bama man's jumping up and down. Bama fans were wearing a Florida hat this week. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. You're on the outside looking in. What's the difference between these two things? What's the difference between these two things? Bama and Mizzou. One had to play Georgia, and one didn't. That's the only difference. Hold your head up high, Bama man. You're SEC West Missouri. That's what you are. That's what you are. We've got an amazing list of losers today. We're going to get right to it here. You already know Uncle Lou's got not 1, but 2 pages of copious notes. We're going to go through the list of losers. As usual, I've got a list of teams that won yesterday and looked pretty good. I've got a list of teams that won pretty good won yesterday, but didn't look so good. And then, not only do I have a Heisman list for you, I have a Heisman winner for you. All the conference championship games are set. We'll talk about those. I've got my playoff prediction. I've been updating it every week. I'm going to go all the way back. I'll give you my preseason prediction so you can laugh at me. Then I'll tell you who I think is getting into playoffs now. Then I'm going to give you just my top 4 teams. My top 4. Then I'm going to give you what I think the committee's top 4 teams will be on Tuesday. And of course, we've got the We're Back list. Top 4 We're Back teams coming up. Let's get started though. You know what? Let's start with Nebraska. Is it fun to make fun of Nebraska anymore? I don't know. And I thought about, I'll be honest, the only reason I'm even grabbing Nebraska's helmet anymore for the Sunday video is because it's just absolutely brutal the way their last month of their season went. Given what they've been through for the last 7 years. Coaches that didn't work. Homecoming for Scott Frost, who fell on his face. No bowl game appearances since 2016. In comes Matt Rule, and I feel like we've talked about this every week for the last month because, well, we have. But in comes Matt Rule, and he's going to save the day. And lo and behold, Nebraska gets to 5 wins at the end of October. All they need is one more win at some point over their last 4 or 5 games, and they are going bowling. Extra money, an extra 10 or 15 practices, and finally getting over that stigma of just, being one of the worst programs in the country. Because, look, if you go that long without making a bowl game, that's what you are. You are bad. You are really, really bad. And Nebraska just kept losing. And their last chance was this past weekend against Iowa. And boy, they had every chance and opportunity to win that game. They blocked 2 field goals in the first half. The game was tied late. Nebraska had the ball around midfield. 20 yards, they can attempt a game-winning field goal. If they miss it, we're going to overtime. You roll the dice. The way the college football overtime rules are these days, that's a roll of the dice. Maybe they get lucky and win that thing. They're going bowling. What happens? The most Nebraska thing ever. They throw an interception. And not only that, they let Iowa return it all the way down to like the 40 or 35 yard line to where they, basically they run one play, they get in field goal position, they kick a field goal, game-winning field goal, game over. Iowa beats Nebraska 13-10, just another typical Iowa game. No offense, no scoring. Good defense, boring, punts out the yin-yang. Did y'all watch any of the Iowa-Nebraska game? They kept showing these 2 guys in the stands wearing hoodies They were gray hoodies, and printed on the front it said punts. And every time either team would punt, they would just go nuts. They would just go absolutely, they loved it. They're just fans of punts, those two guys. Anyway, if you didn't see it, it's probably describing it's not all that funny, probably. But if you saw it, you had to have laughed out loud. I know I did. But anyway, just absolute misery for Nebraska and their fan base coming so close to bowl eligibility. And not only that, it's not like they hit 5 wins last week and they had this one opportunity to get bowl eligible. Like I said, they hit 5 wins a month ago. All they had to do was win one of their last 4 or 5 games. They were going bowling, and they just lose. And all of the games were close, and they just couldn't do it. It's just absolutely brutal. Not as brutal as this, though. Not as brutal as this. My God. I talked several times this week about rivalry games and the way people talk about them, and how it tends to be a little overblown. The whole, throw the records out when it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen in a rivalry game. I said, I think that's kind of overplayed. It's not necessarily true. I'm not saying that ever again about the Iron Bowl. I have seen so many weird things happen in Jordan-Hare and at the Iron Bowl. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. I don't need to go through the list with the kick six and the prayer at Jordan-Hare, and a couple of years ago when Auburn was just horrific and Bama was one of, if not the best teams in the country, and Bama couldn't get a first down for the entire game, basically, and it took Bryce Young a 99-yard last-minute touchdown drive to win. That stuff just keeps happening over and over and over in this game. And we had another one of those things yesterday. Auburn did absolutely everything right in this game to win the game until the very last play. I don't even know. The most brutal thing I've ever been through as a Georgia fan is losing the national championship in overtime to Alabama, 2nd and 26. I can talk about it now 6 years ago, and Georgia's won 2 national titles since then. But I'm telling you, I didn't think I could feel a pain as a college football fan worse than what I felt losing a national championship game in overtime. Obviously, a national championship game is bigger than any regular season game, but I cannot even begin to imagine what the Barner is feeling losing that game the way they did. I don't feel like I need to go over it in detail. I feel like everybody probably watched that game, or at least watched the ending. And even if you didn't watch the ending, you probably heard about it by now. So I'm going to skip the details. But, Bama gets down at the end. They're down 4. So a field goal is no good. They got to score a touchdown. They get down inside the 20. They get inside the 10. So it's 1st and goal. Penalty backs them up a little bit to like the 16 or something like that. It's 3rd and goal from like the 16. The center snaps the ball. Mildew's in a shotgun. The center snaps the ball. Mildew's not even looking. I don't know if that was Mildew's fault or if it was the center's fault. I don't know. Doesn't matter. The ball just sails right past Mildew, literally 15, 20 yards behind him. Mildew just goes back and jumps on it. It's now like 4th and 31. I think were they at the 31-yard line? 31, 35-yard line, something like that. 4th and goal from the 30-something yard line, and I'm like, wow. Auburn is actually going to beat Bama. Because, look, as much as I like laughing at Alabama just as much as the next guy. We all do. And it would have been hilarious for Alabama to lose that game. But I didn't think for 1 second this week that Auburn had any chance of winning this game. And I didn't think they had a chance of winning it even during the game when they were keeping it close. And then they would take the lead and then Bama would come back. Even when after the penalty, when it made it 3rd and 16 or whatever it was, I'm like, they're still going to find a way to score. It's friggin' Bama. Until the last play. When it was 4th and goal from the 30, I said, there's no way. I said, Auburn is actually going to win this thing. And look, we can debate, or Auburn fans can debate or whatever, whether or not Auburn should have done something differently on that last play. They rushed 2. It was a 2-man rush. So basically, Mildew had an hour and a half to sit in the pocket and let wide receivers run around like backyard football. And Mildew throws the pass into the corner of the end zone, and the guy comes down with it. And I don't know whether you talk that up as being a great play for Bama, a terrible play for Auburn, Iron Bowl craziness, Jordan-Hare curses. I don't know what you chalk it up to, but that was one of the most unbelievable endings I have seen in any game ever. And I'm serious. I'm almost having a hard time laughing and pointing at the Barner for losing, which is the whole point of these videos, because I just can't imagine that. Again, even the Auburn fans didn't come into this game with a whole lot of expectations, especially given what happened last week against New Mexico State. I mean, they just got blown out of their own building by New Mexico State. They got Alabama coming in. They're sitting there with a first-year coach. They're stuck at 5 or 6 wins, whatever it is. It's a bad season. Their quarterback is horrible, all of them. They can't complete passes to save their life. And the game starts, and just everything starts going Auburn's way. They get the ground game going. Peyton Thorne is running the ball well. He even manages to complete a pass every now and then. Mildew isn't having a great game. It was just like the stars were aligning. And then that final play happens. And it is just, I've been watching college football for a long time. You cannot dream this shit up. The shit that happens in the Iron Bowl, the shit that happens in Jordan-Hare Stadium, if you sat down for a week with nothing to do but come up with the weirdest possible scenarios for a game and how they could end, you could never come up with this pick six from 15 years ago, 12, 13, the prayer at Jordan-Hare from a decade ago. Try to script. You sit down and you script Alabama's game-winning drive. You wouldn't do it in a million years. Oh, drive right down the field, get first and goal inside the 10, get backed up to the 16, 3rd and 16, snap it past the quarterback's butthole, 20 yards in reverse. Now it's 4th and goal from the 31, and you're stuck with Mildew at QB. Game over, Auburn wins. If you tried to write how that went down with Mildew scrambling around throwing that, I mean, you would never come up with that. It is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And like I said, I know the point of this video was point and laugh. This is one of those games in college football that we'll be talking about 20 years from now. It doesn't matter that Auburn's a terrible team this year. We will be talking about this game for 20 years. Just like we talk about the kick six, just like we talk about the prayer of Jordan-Hare, just like they talk about Bryce Young's 99-yard touchdown drive. This is one of those endings I'm rarely at a loss for words. I'm struggling to describe like how I felt at the end of that game. And I'm not even an Auburn or an Alabama fan. Imagine, we talked about how bad it must feel to be an Auburn fan. Imagine you're an Alabama fan. You've been running around the internet embarrassing yourself for 3 weeks, thinking you're going to the playoffs or beating Georgia or something, which is so far out of the realm of possibility. It's amazing the people that think that are able to Velcro their own shoes, but you've been doing it nonetheless. And then you sit down and start to watch the Iron Bowl. You thought you were losing. There's not an Alabama fan on planet Earth who thought Alabama was winning that game when they lined up 4th and goal from the 31. There ain't one. Now, this is the internet. This is YouTube. So you're going to see a million Bama fans in the comment section that'll tell you they never had a doubt. They're lying. Lying through their teeth. So, but imagine how ecstatic the Bama fans are now. You know? They got thrown a lifeline. They get to embarrass themselves in the comment section for another week. Now, this is great for me on YouTube, right? Because if Alabama would have lost yesterday, you wouldn't have been able to find an Alabama fan this coming week with a map and a telescope. But because they beat one of the worst Auburn teams of my lifetime on a last-second, just absolute miracle, they're going to be all over the place like cockroaches, which is great. We're going to have to wait another week before they disappear. Oh, well. I can put up with the Bama fans for another week without a problem. I can put up with the Bama fans for another week. Auburn, your season's been over. Bama, you got one more week. Oh, man. Speaking of close calls, Florida let Bama down. You let Bama down. You let Bama down. Bama fans, what are y'all doing with all those Florida hats y'all bought this week? Boy, y'all needed Florida State to lose. Boy, y'all needed Florida State to lose, but they didn't. They didn't. They tried a couple of times. They tried to let it get away. They let Florida hang in there. Really, it ended up being the best of both worlds, didn't it? You got to win, Florida State. That's good for you, right? And you got to string the Bama man along for 3.5 hours. Who cares about the Florida fan? Yeah, I mean, you strung them along too, but who cares? Yeah, if they would have won, they would have, bowl eligibility, and I guess that would have been good. But ask yourself this: one of the biggest advantages of making a bowl game, you get the payday, the paycheck comes along with it, great. But the biggest advantage from, like, if you were to ask the coaches, right, is the extra practices you get. You get an extra 10 or 15 practices depending on when your bowl game is, and that's a big deal. We've talked about this before. But Florida fans, ask yourself this: don't you think Florida's better off getting less practices under Billy Napier? I don't think he knows what he's doing. So I think less practices is probably a benefit to Florida. But boy, they strung Bama. Y'all had Bama on the edge of their seat. Y'all had Bama man on the edge of his seat. But you just couldn't do it. You just couldn't do it. 24-15, Florida goes down to Florida State. This is the second week in a row we got to say, I hope Florida State's quarterback is okay. Tate Roadrunner. Meep. That was probably a bad time to make that joke, but he looked like maybe, I don't know if it was a concussion, it was a targeting call, and he left the game. And of course, he's already the backup, so Florida State had to send the third guy in at the end of the game, but they hang on and win. So we'll see. I obviously hope Roadrunner's okay for Florida State. They got Louisville next week, and boy, the ACC is an absolute dumpster can. Is Louisville over here? We'll talk about Louisville in a minute. I do want to give a shout out to Florida State, though. Tough breaks for them. Losing Jordan Travis last week, heading into this rivalry game on the road in the swamp at Florida, with a Florida team that had nothing to lose. I mean, it's a horrible team with a horrible season. They stuck on 5 wins. They had lost 4 games in a row coming into this. You knew you were going to get, Florida was going to throw everything at this game. They literally have nothing to lose, right? No one expected them to win. And Florida, for about 3 quarters, gave Florida State all they wanted. In fact, Florida was leading the game a few different times. It was kind of a back-and-forth game the first 3 quarters. Florida State scored there late, and that was it. Florida was never really able to pose any more threats to Florida State towards the end of that game. But Florida hung in there for a while. They also played with a backup quarterback, Max Brown. Is his first name Max? So a closer game, I think, than some people thought. I know for a fact it was a closer game than the Florida State fans thought, because they told me all week they were going to blow them out. I told y'all, Florida State fans, y'all better watch out, and you better be worried about this Florida game. And turned out I was right. You did win in the end. So all credit to Florida State for that. They remain undefeated at 12-0. Now, I've heard a lot of different takes on Florida State over the last week since they lost their quarterback. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I do not believe under any circumstances that a team should be punished just because of an injury. Now, if that injury, if you have an injury and then you lose, okay, you're dropping a team because they lost. There's a lot of talk out there about the committee should drop Florida State because they're not as good with Jordan Travis. That is just, whether it's true or not is not even the point. It is not up to a room full of people to decide that, this player got injured on this team, therefore we don't think they're as good, so we're dropping them down. I mean, everybody's mentioned the Ohio State example, but Ohio State won a national title in 2014 or 15, whatever it was, with their third-string quarterback. Georgia won a national title in 2021 with their backup quarterback, Stetson Bennett. The idea that because their starter got hurt, you automatically have to disqualify Florida State from the playoffs is ridiculous. Now, look, I've been very clear about my thoughts on Florida State and how good they are or how good they aren't going back for about a month now, way before the Jordan Travis injury. I don't think Florida State is a top 4 team. I don't. But the key word in that phrase is think. I don't think they're a top 4 team. What do I know? I know they're 12-0. That's what I know. They're 12-0. If they beat Louisville and they're 13-0, they're getting into playoffs. I mean, they should anyway. They should. I can't foresee any scenario where a 13-0 Florida State gets left out. Let's play it out. What if Georgia wins out and they're undefeated? What if Washington wins out and they're undefeated? Michigan wins out and they're undefeated. Florida State wins out, they're undefeated. That would leave the Big 12, Texas, with 1 loss. Texas has to get left out in that scenario. Do I think Texas is better than Florida State? Yep, I do. Would I bet money tomorrow on Texas beating Florida State if they were playing tomorrow? Yes, I would. Does that mean that a 1-loss Texas should finish ahead of a 13-0 Florida State? No. So I don't see any scenario where Florida State beats Louisville next week and gets left out of the playoffs. And if the committee does that because of the Jordan Travis injury, I think we are setting ourselves up for disaster down the road. Because where's it going to stop? There's a million examples to use, but wasn't it the SEC? Was it the SEC championship game that Mechie got hurt in for Bama, or was that the Auburn game? Either one. What if the committee went, Bama deserves to be in the 14 playoff, but they lost a wide receiver. We're going to leave them out. That's horrible. That's terrible. What if I don't know, let's see. What if Washington beats Oregon for the second time, but Michael Penix gets hurt in the game? You want the committee to decide that means Washington shouldn't be in? I'm dragging this on. I think I've made my point. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the conference championship games. At the end of this video, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen. But I don't see a scenario where a 13-0 Florida State, given where everyone else is ranked and the fact that there's at least one conference is guaranteed to have a conference champion with a loss. That's the Big 12. Every other conference could conceivably have an undefeated champion. The SEC could have Georgia at 13-0. That's the only, everyone else in the SEC has a loss, but Georgia could be 13-0. Washington from the Pac-12 could be 13-0. Michigan from the Big 10 could be 13-0. Florida State from the ACC could be 13-0. The Big 12 is the only conference that cannot, under any circumstances, have an undefeated champion. Now, we've never had 4 undefeated champions heading into a 14 playoff, so if this happens, it would be the first time. I just don't think the committee should be in the business of deciding how valuable a certain player is to a team and saying, well, yeah, Florida State's 13-0, they won all their games, but we think without Jordan Travis, they're not that good, or whatever. I don't think that should happen. Now, with that being said, I don't know if Florida State's beating Louisville. Florida State's not that good. I've been saying that for Florida State's not that good. They're not. If they get into the playoffs, they're going to be the worst 13-0 team to ever get into the playoffs. That I can tell you that. They are not good. There's been some bad teams get into playoffs, but usually they have a loss. Florida State ain't got no business, and they won't win a game. But again, that's my opinion. The fact is, if they beat Louisville, they'll be a 13-0 Power 5 conference champion. But Florida, your season's over again. Speaking of seasons being over again, Colorado. Now, in the case of Florida, hold on. Who else? Who have we done so far? We did Nebraska. Well, fuck it. In the case of Colorado, Nebraska, and Florida, well, your season really is over. Colorado, no bowl game for you. Florida, no bowl game for you. Nebraska, no bowl game from you. Can you believe that? We've got to wait all the way until next season to laugh at Colorado losing another game. This is it. This is our last chance to laugh at Colorado losing until next season. Last chance to laugh at Florida for losing until next season. Last chance to laugh at Nebraska for losing until next season. It's sad. I have enjoyed laughing, particularly at Colorado and Florida all year. It's one of my favorite things to do. Now here we are, the end of November. I've got to wait 9 months. 9 months I've got to wait before I can laugh at Colorado or Florida for losing a game. Now, both of these teams are completely inept from the top down, so they will do things in the offseason that will enable me to laugh at them. So that's good. But as far as laughing at them for losing games, they don't have any more games to lose. They're not playing any more games because they're not good enough. Colorado and Florida, at least last year, Florida made a bowl game. Of course, they lost, but at least Florida made a bowl game last year. Florida's not even good enough this year to lose in a bowl game. They're not even good enough to earn the privilege of losing in a bowl game. Sad. Billy Napier doesn't know what he's doing, and next year he's getting fired. Colorado lost again without Shedeur Sanders this time. He didn't play. He was hurt. Game was close. Utah beat them by, what did they beat them by? 6. Was that the final score? Where's this at? Yeah, 23-17. Colorado has lost their last 6 games of the season. That makes Florida seem not so bad. Florida lost their last 5 games of the year. Colorado lost their last 6 games of the year. In fact, they've lost 8 of their last 9. Colorado. Why? Well, they're not any fucking good. That's why. They're terrible, in fact. And they don't have a coach. Deion Sanders is a team mom with a gold whistle. His recruiting class is ranked in the 60s. Signing day is 2 weeks away. Oh, about the transfer portal. Great. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I don't know how many games they're going to win next year. I'm not ready to make that prediction yet. We got to wait. We do all that in the off. We got plenty of time to talk about next year in the off season. Colorado's not going to be good next year either. They're not. Sorry. Cry about it. Colorado, you lost again. No one cared, but I did. I just like watching you lose, Colorado. You know what? It's not even Colorado. I gotta get out of the habit of saying that all the time. Let's put Louisville back here for now, although they won't be down there for long because they lost to Kentucky. I don't have any issue with Colorado. I think I've made that clear. My issue is with the Deion dingleberries who don't know anything about college football but want to act like they do. And then if you say anything other than Deion Sanders is the reincarnation of the black Jesus Christ, then they call you racist. So I'm fully prepared to read those comments on this video again. In fact, I'm looking forward to it. Man, the Deion nut huggers. Can't stand them. Can't stand the nerds either. Boy. Y'all came on over to the live stream, didn't you? Yeah, you did. You came on over to the live stream watching me stream that Georgia Tech game. Why? Oh, Georgia was losing 7-0. Georgia's losing 7-0 in every game, man. Have you been paying attention? Georgia gives up a touchdown on the opening. Georgia gives up a touchdown to the opponent on the opening drive every single game. Now, they didn't do it this game. I will admit they didn't do it this game, but they did it on the second drive. Look, this is how. So Georgia Tech gets the ball. They don't score. Georgia gets the ball. What happens? Fumble! Yeah, they fumbled right away on the first play. Georgia's offense goes, wait a minute. The defense is supposed to let them score on the first possession. They didn't do that. Let's give them the ball back and give them another chance. So that's what we did. So we gifted you that touchdown. Boy, they came crawling into the Uncle Lou comment section with the ha, ha, ha. Look, Georgia has given up the first points of the game 6 games in a row. Vandy, Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, Tennessee, and now Georgia Tech. It means absolutely nothing to me. You go back and watch my live stream reactions of each of those games when the other team scores. There is no reaction. I'm expecting it at this point. With that being said, I was not happy with the run defense today. We let the nerds run up and down the field on us. In fact, they big boyed us. There ought not be no Georgia fans really bragging about this win. Let's other than Well, we'll get to what Georgia fans can brag about in a minute. Specifically, this game, not a lot to brag about. I thought the play was sloppy offensively. I thought Georgia got beat on both lines of scrimmage more times than not in this game. I thought the tackling was poor defensively. I thought the discipline was poor defensively. A lot of bad angles, a lot of missed tackles. Honestly, a lot of poor effort plays. Plays where the effort just wasn't there. Maybe this is a little too harsh, but it sort of reminded me of a Lincoln Riley defense. It wasn't just one issue. It was a multitude of issues. Players out of position. Players missing tackles. Players look lazy. Players getting pushed around. Pretty much whatever you can do wrong defensively, they kind of did that. And even in the third quarter, which has been like the money quarter for Georgia when they pull away, and they did that. Georgia pulled away in the third quarter. At one point, they were up, 20 points? Something like that. Georgia Tech didn't give up. They kept coming back, and they got this thing within a one-possession game there at the end. And Georgia, ends up winning 31-23. Georgia winning, though, is really the only positive to take from this game as a Georgia fan, in my opinion. I thought Carson Beck, I have mixed feelings, okay? The interception in the end zone, you can't account for a tip, okay? It hit, the ball was tipped in the end zone, straight up in the air. Bad things are going to happen more times than not when that happens. That in and of itself, you can't really put on the quarterback. But here's the thing. I don't think the ball should have been thrown. Carson Beck made several throws tonight that I didn't think he should have made. And so just because the interception comes as a result of a tip, and you go, wait, you can't really blame that on the QB. But we shouldn't have thrown the ball. I thought Kendall Milton played good. If we want to look for another positive, I thought Kendall Milton played good, and that's good to see. He's staying healthy, which is a minor miracle, and I thought he played well. Deion Edwards, I did not think played well today. I didn't think the offensive line played well today. The receiving core played okay. Oscar Delt played okay. And I know we were without some players, but everyone's without some players. It's November. So, okay, Brock Bowers didn't play. Ladd McConkey didn't play. Tate, one of the Tate Rattler, whatever. I get it. Okay. It's the last game of the regular season. Lots of teams are playing without players. Jordan Travis did not play today. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, look, it's November. Everybody's playing without players. So that's not an excuse. And as Georgia fans, we view ourselves on a different plane than Georgia Tech. Why? Recruiting, depth, coaching, talent. Missing a handful of players really shouldn't have caused what we saw today. That's not a valid excuse. I don't ever use injuries or this player didn't play or that didn't play as an excuse. But even the fans that sometimes do shouldn't be doing that against Georgia Tech. This was a sloppy, not good performance by Georgia. Not good. A couple of silver linings you can take out of it. Number one, Georgia won. That's better than losing. I'll take a bad win over a good loss, right? So Georgia won. It's their 29th straight win in a row, breaking the SEC record. No SEC team has ever won 29 games in a row. Now they have, and it's Georgia. Not Nick Saban, not Bear Bryant, not Steve Spurrier, not anybody else you want to name. Only one team in the history of the SEC, only one coach in the history of the SEC has won 29 straight games. It's Kirby Smart, so yay. Georgia goes 12-0 for the third regular season in a row. No college football team in history has done that. Not one. Teams have gone undefeated 3 years in a row in the regular season. Back before we played 12 games, 6 games, and then it was 8 games. You played 10 games for a long time. But since we've been playing 12 games, no team has gone 12-0 3 regular seasons in a row. Georgia accomplishes that. Okay, yay, great. Great. So there's some silver linings. But boy, this team did not play good. Another, I guess, thing you can point to is, what is Alabama going to say to us about playing bad? What is Alabama going to say to Georgia about squeaking by Georgia Tech? There's nothing they can say. They got the luckiest win I've ever seen over a horrific team. What else? What is Washington going to say? There's nothing they can say. Washington State is third to last in the Pac-12. Washington beat them on a walk-off field goal today. What's Florida State going to say? Nothing. They were losing for the majority of a game to a 5-win, terrible, dumpster juice Florida team. What's Michigan going to say? Nothing. They cheat. What's Ohio State going to say? Nothing. They lost. So, but no, Georgia did not play well. They didn't look good. They didn't dominate like they should have. And really, the only positive that I can take out of this Georgia win over Georgia Tech today is they won, the records I talked about, and as far as I'm aware, there were no major injuries in this game. That's it. But this wasn't a good game for Georgia. I'll take a bad win over a good loss. Wouldn't you, Ohio State man? Wouldn't you? Of course you would. But you can't, because you did lose. What a deadbeat program. What a deadbeat program Ohio State is. You have lost for 3 years in a row to Michigan. That is absolutely humiliating. Humiliating. I know it's humiliating. You can't even lie to me and tell me it's not. You know why? You're not about to spend 1 second on the internet running around telling me how good Michigan is. Oh, well, we lost to a really good team. There's no shame in losing to Michigan. You're not about to run around saying that. You're not about to run around saying that. You're humiliated. You're castrated. You can't run around saying you got out-coached, can you? Please tell me you're not going to do that. You didn't get out-coached by a team without a coach, did you? Did you? Let me guess. You only lost because the weather was good. We can't win in good weather. If the weather would have been bad, we would have... Y'all just change your tune up depending on what happened, don't you? Look, maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe the Ohio State fans will come out and say, you know what? We lost to the better team. Michigan was better than us. Congratulations. Hats off. The better team won. Maybe they'll do that. If they do that, it'll be the first time in history Ohio State fans have ever done that. Usually when they lose, it's the weather, the location, one player was injured, whatever. I don't know. But 3 years in a row, you've lost to Michigan. And the worst news yet, if you think these deadbeats need help, boy, you need a lifeline. In other words, you ain't getting into the playoffs. Now, to be fair to the Ohio State fans, I haven't seen a single one of them running around saying they are. Or, oh yeah, well, this and this. Y'all aren't getting in the playoffs. And I think y'all know that. You backdoored in last year, totally different situation. Multiple 2-loss conference champions, all that kind of thing. I think it's just not a chance of that. I think you know that. Like I said, maybe there's some Ohio State fans that are out here with the fucking... living in fantasy land. Well, if this happens and that happens and this happens and that happens and that and that and that and this, maybe we could still get in. Maybe there's some Ohio State fans out there doing that. I don't know. I haven't seen any yet. So that's a credit to Ohio State because if I catch you doing it, I'm going to call you out because no, you ain't getting in. You're not backdooring in. That door doesn't even exist for you this year. Just forget about it. Just forget about it. Hey, I'll give you one guess which team had more rushing yards. Are y'all ever going to be able to match Michigan's physicality? Or are you just going to continue to be too soft to get the job done? Here's the thing with the Michigan cheats deal, okay? And this is to the Michigan and to the Ohio State people. Did Michigan cheat in this game? No. Not that I'm aware of. No. Okay? So if there's any Ohio State fans using that as an excuse as to why they lost, that's not a valid excuse. Michigan did not cheat in this game. Michigan did not cheat some other time that caused them to win this game. That's not true. So I'm on the Michigan fans' side on that one. And if I see the Ohio State man running around saying they only lost because Michigan cheats, I'm going to call you out. It's not why you lost. Michigan didn't cheat in this game. Now, to the Michigan fans, and I have seen a lot of y'all doing this. This is proof that the cheating didn't matter. No, it is not proof that the cheating didn't matter. This is only proof that you didn't need to cheat to win this particular game this year. Okay? Cheating is what got you where you are. This game isn't proof that all that cheating you did didn't help you any. That's unprovable. It's unknowable. It doesn't matter whether it did or didn't help you. Doesn't matter. Michigan thought it mattered. Michigan thought they needed to do it. Michigan thought it would give them a benefit and an advantage. Again, not for this game, but over the course of the last 2.5 years when Michigan was engaged in this cheating scheme. Okay? That is what got Michigan to where they're at. I don't mean beating Ohio State yesterday. I mean, that's what got Michigan to the level that it's at as a program right now. But look, I'm not saying Michigan needed to cheat to do it. I'm saying Michigan thought they needed to cheat to do it because that's why they did it. So, no, this game doesn't disprove any talking point about Michigan or prove they weren't cheating or prove that the cheating didn't matter or help them. No, it doesn't prove any of that. And even more importantly, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the cheating helped you or not. It's the fact that you cheated that's the problem. And that's not going away. That's not going away. Now, Ohio State man can do what's right and congratulate you for the win. The better team won. Congratulations. Good luck going, whatever. They can do that if they choose to or not. The rest of you don't have to believe it and you don't have to care. But I know you care because you get mad every time I talk about it and you spend hours denying it in the comments section. But that's on you. I'm telling you, outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, 99% of the rest of the college football world just is not going to give any legitimacy to anything you have done in the last 2 seasons or this season. They're not. Now, that doesn't matter. You're going to play in the Big Ten title game, and if you win it, you're going to the playoffs. It doesn't matter what I think, what some random Southern Cal fan thinks. It doesn't matter what any college football fan anywhere thinks. If you win next week against Iowa, you're going to the college football playoff. That's it, period. Doesn't matter what we think. But you're going to have to come to grips with the fact that the rest of the college football world does feel that way. And the rest of the college football world, when they talk about this period of college football, whatever you accomplish, whether winning the Big Ten ends up being your biggest accomplishment during this time period, which so far that's what it is. Winning the Big Ten so far is your biggest accomplishment. You're 0 for 2 in the playoffs. That could change this year, but whatever the biggest accomplishment you reach, over the last 2 seasons and this season, whether it's winning the Big Ten and that's it, whether it's winning one playoff game and that's it, or whether it's winning it all, The rest of the college football world, when they talk about Michigan in 2021, 2022, and 2023, they're going to say, Michigan did this, this, and this, but remember they were caught cheating. That's just never going away. And just like Ohio State fans have to accept the fact that Ryan Day got his dick put in the dirt by a team with no coach, you have to accept the fact that the rest of the college football world is going to look at you in that light. Okay? Now, again, it doesn't have to bother you. It doesn't have to matter because it doesn't really matter. But to you, it seems like it matters. Clemson beat South Carolina without scoring an offensive touchdown. Now, that's funny because Georgia beat Clemson a couple of years ago without scoring an offensive touchdown. First game of 2021. I know it seems like forever ago, but who remembers that game? Way back when JT Daniels was the starting quarterback at Georgia. And they played Clemson in Charlotte in week 1. DJ Uiagalelei. Update on DJ Uiagalelei and Cade Klubnik coming up in a minute, by the way. Shout out to Pigskin Pete. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Week 1, 2021, Georgia played Clemson in Charlotte. Beat them 10-3. The only touchdown in that game, a pick 6 by Georgia. And Georgia won 10-3. Clemson beats South Carolina, 16-7? I think. Did I even write the score down? I think it was 16-7. Let me see if I wrote it down. Yeah, 16-7. Clemson beat them without scoring an offensive touchdown. Shout out to Clemson. Unfortunately, Clemson, you turned the ball over again. That's 12 regular season games for Clemson, and they turned the ball over in every single one. You got one more chance, Clemson. Whatever meaningless bowl game they stick you in, you got one more chance to play a game without turning the ball over, or your helmet is going to have to stay upside down for the entire offseason. And I will remind you, I did not turn the Clemson helmet over. It was not my idea to turn it over. I didn't make the rules for turning it over. A Clemson fan 7 games ago said, Lou, we've turned the ball over in every game. Turn our helmet upside down until we play one game without turning it over. I said, that's fair. You got 7 games left. I'm sure you'll go a game somewhere without turning it over. Boy, was I wrong. You got one more chance, or you're going to spend your entire offseason right next to your upside-down girlfriend, Colorado. Better get your shit together, taters. Better get your shit together. How'd Cade Klubnik do? About like you'd expect. Not very good. Turned the ball over, had 100 yards passing, and I think 50 yards rushing. Total. Not in the first quarter, not in the first half. Total. He had 152 yards, I think, of total offense. Why does that matter? Well, me and my buddy Pigskin Pete, shout out, I love Pigskin Pete, but we made look, this bet ended up being unbelievable. I don't know how many of y'all know about this. You would only know if you watched the Lunch Money Show, but so DJ Uiagalelei was the quarterback of Clemson, right? We all remember that. He transferred out to Oregon State, and Cade Klubnik was named the starter at Clemson. And in the offseason, I said, I think DJ's going to do okay out there. He ain't winning no Heisman, but I think he'll do okay. And me and Pete were talking about it on the Lunch Money Show, and we decided to make a friendly bet between Cade Klubnik of Clemson and DJ Uiagalelei of the Beavers. And here was the bet. It was a 3-part bet. Completion percentage, total touchdowns scored rushing and passing, and total yards rushing and passing. Well, DJ Uiagalelei ended up with quite a bit more touchdowns this season than Cade Klubnik. That part of the bet wasn't particularly close. Cade Klubnik ended up with a much better completion percentage, believe it or not, than Uiagalelei. That part of the bet wasn't particularly close. That's why we made it a 3-part bet. You can't have a tie if it's a 3-part bet. So Pete and Cade Klubnik won the completion percentage portion of the bet. DJ Ooga Badoogie almost fell over right there. Type. DJ, please remember, it's now 2 in the morning. I've been talking I started recording this video at 1 in the morning. It's now 2 in the morning. It's lucky I haven't fallen over more than once. DJ Uga Badoogie had more touchdowns than Cade. So anyway, the third part of the bet was total yards, okay? Last week on the Lunch Money Show, we looked it up for DJ and Cade Klubnik. We added up the total yards passing and rushing. Would you believe they were only separated by 20 yards total? So it was coming down to this last weekend, but on who was going to win the bet between me and Pete. Well, luckily, Cade Klubnik shit the bed this week. Only had 152 total yards. My boy, DJ Ui Unga had about 240. So Uncle Lou won the bet. But South Carolina, you had one of the worst seasons you've had in a long time. You massively underperformed and disappointed. Now, Beamer is going to get the benefit of the doubt because in his first 2 years, he overachieved. The bar was here. Beamer was up here his first 2 years. This year, the bar was a little higher, but he's way down here. Terrible year for South Carolina. It can't be exaggerated how bad of a year it was. It was horrible. Absolutely terrible. But he'll be back, and we'll see what they do next year. But wow, not good. Not good. All right, who won but did not look good doing it? I already went through. Look, it was not a good week for the top 10, generally speaking. Some of them did really good. Let's go through the list here. Washington, not good. Washington State's a terrible team. Washington beat them 24-21, a walk-off field goal at the end. Main takeaway, Washington State's undefeated, but not a good win. Ole Miss, 17-7 over Mississippi State. Not good. Mississippi State's fired their coach. They're terrible. They're like probably the second worst team in the SEC. Ole Miss, look, shout out to Ole Miss. And I don't apologize for getting predictions wrong, but I have given Lane Kiffin a very hard time this season, and I'm still not convinced he's an elite level coach. But they went 10-2, and that's better than I thought Lane Kiffin would do. I don't trust Lane Kiffin in big games, and I still don't. Got blown out by Georgia. Lost to Alabama way back in the beginning of the season when Alabama was even worse than they are now, if you can believe that. I still got some issues with Lane, but he went 10-2, and I didn't see that coming. But this is not an impressive win, 17-7 over a bad Mississippi State team. Clemson, 16-7 over the worst South Carolina team in years. Clemson have been playing some of their best football the last few weeks. They show up against South Carolina, Cade Klubnik like you've never seen a football before. Not good. Oklahoma 69-45 over TCU. If I hear one more Oklahoma fan bitch and moan about wanting to fire their offensive coordinator, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. First of all, your offensive coordinator is being courted by other teams that know what the fuck they're doing. People want him as a head coach. I don't understand for the life of me these Oklahoma fans who have run around all season complaining about their offense. Hey, dipshit, you gave up 45 fucking points to TCU. You ought to be embarrassed and ashamed. Who runs the defense? Brent Venables. Oh, well, you can't say anything bad about Brent Venables. Can't do that. We can't do that. So it must be the offense's fault. Boy, y'all are dumber than a box of dead batteries. I'm serious. You're dumber than a junk drawer. You don't want your offensive coordinator? You scored 70 points. Wonder what your offensive coordinator will be up to here in the next couple of days. I don't know. You won, but you gave up 45 points to a terrible TCU team. Shut up. Start fixing the wheels on your wagon and worry about next year. FSU 24-15 over Florida. Not impressive. Again, I hate that Jordan Travis got injured. Everybody's got injuries, and Florida State fans told me all week long that Roadrunner is better than Jordan Travis. Now, I knew that was bullshit from the word go. You can't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining, bunch of dummies. I knew that was stupid from the word go. But y'all told me that all week, and then you losing most of the game, you end up beating them 24-15. They also had a backup quarterback. I've said enough about Florida State. They're not very good. Georgia, not good. 31-23 over Tech. That's not good. That's not good. 31-23 over this Georgia Tech team is not good. And more than the score, it's the way Georgia played. And I went over, I shit on Georgia for 10 minutes earlier in the video. If you missed it, go back and watch it. Not good. Bama, not good. Not good. Let's look in the top 10. Georgia, this is my top 10 now that I had going into the week. Georgia was number 1, not good. Ohio State number 2, not good. Washington number 3, not good. Florida State number 4, not good. Michigan number 5. I didn't think Michigan played very good. Look, the Big Ten is terrible. Can somebody tell me who the best quarterback in the Big Ten is? And if it's J.J. McCarthy, my God, then we got levels of poverty never before seen in the Big Ten. I don't think there's one good quarterback in the Big Ten. Deweiler at Penn State is horrible. Honda McCord at Ohio State is an absolute joke. J.J. McCarthy couldn't throw himself out of a wet paper bag. Oregon. Oregon looked good. How good? Glad you asked. Oregon won 31-7 against Oregon State. Same Oregon State team that almost beat Washington last week. I'm going to talk about conference championship games in a minute. Spoiler alert. Oregon's going to beat the fuck out of Washington. Write that down. But Oregon looked really good. You know who else looked good? Texas. Texas looked really good. They played, was it Friday they played? I think it was Friday, 57-7. Now they played a bad Texas Tech team. But hey, guess what? Georgia played a bad Georgia Tech team. They didn't win 57-7. Washington played a bad Washington State team. They didn't win 57-7. Florida State played a bad Florida team. They didn't win 57-7. Michigan played a bad Ohio State team. They didn't win 57-7. Texas looked good. Cry about it. Bama? No, didn't look good. Missouri? Yeah, Missouri. They beat Arkansas. Arkansas is terrible. I know. Good thing they beat them 48-14. Would you rather them do what Alabama did and beat them by 3? Alabama beat Arkansas by 3. I'm not talking about the transitive property. That doesn't work in college football. What I mean is, don't tell me it's not impressive that Missouri beat Arkansas 48-14. Arkansas is not any good. Plenty of teams that are good didn't beat Arkansas 48-14. Of course that's a good win, idiot. Louisville? Well, Louisville lost. Louisville lost. Michigan? No. Oregon? Yes. Arizona? 59-23 over Arizona State. Arizona 9-3. One of the most impressive turnarounds. Texas looked good. Mizzou. Penn State 42-0 over Michigan. Michigan State's terrible. Well, it's a good thing they beat them 42-0. But Deweiler at quarterback still ain't the answer. Tulane 29-16 over UTSA. UTSA is a pretty good team with a pretty good coach. Virginia Tech beat Virginia. Miami beat Boston College. Great. We got to hurry here. I'm running out of time. I got to catch a plane. Anyway, Heisman. Who's winning it? Jaden Daniels. 3 losses. He's winning the Heisman. Second place, Bo Nix. After that, doesn't matter. Those are the only 2 that deserve consideration. And I think Jaden Daniels will win it. Harrison, Marvin Harrison, Carson Beck, Michael Penix. If you're going to invite 5 people to the Heisman, that's who it should be. Those 5. Conference championship games. Georgia versus Bama. Georgia will roll. The game will not be close. We beat Bama 33-18 the last time we played them. This game coming up next week won't be that close. That was a 15-point game. This one will be more than that. Michigan versus Iowa. Michigan will win. Florida State versus Louisville. I think Louisville wins the game, which is great news for Alabama. Oregon versus Washington. Oregon will roll. Texas versus Oklahoma State. Texas will roll. That's my predictions for the conference championship games. Playoff predictions. I think the playoffs are going to be Georgia, Washington, Oregon. No. That's the top 4. Playoff predictions. Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, Texas. In no particular order. Georgia, Oregon, Michigan, Texas. That's my playoff prediction. First team out, Florida State. Here's my top 4. Georgia, Washington, Oregon, Texas. I'd have Michigan at 5 for the same reasons I've told you the last 2 weeks. They got caught cheating. I'd have FSU at 6, Bama at 7, Ohio State at 8. What else? The We're Back top 4, I'm keeping it the same as last week. Texas 1, Notre Dame 2, Miami 3, Tennessee 4. Shout out to the We're Back teams, though. They all won this week. I think this is the first week since I've been doing the We're Back rankings that all 4 of the We're Back teams won. So shout out to Texas, Notre Dame, Miami, and Tennessee. There you go. A condensed version of the year season is over for Rivalry Week. Week 13 of the 2023 college football season. Championship week coming up. I'm going to be out of town Sunday to Thursday, but I will be posting videos every single day. Predictions, storylines. There's some coaching news that I'm going to get to either Sunday or afternoon or Monday. Mark Stoops, I'm talking about you. Some Mississippi State news as well. So stay tuned to the channel. Appreciate you watching. Have a good morning.